Hello, I'm Clark Crawford, and welcome back to the latest edition of Clark Crawford Sports. We're going to do something a little different today, and as I've been promising, we're going to get into some NFL football talk here on the channel for the first time for the 2024 season. I did not get around to an episode last week for week one of the NFL season. I've been a little under the weather the last couple weeks, so it's been sporadic with the content, but I'm back at it here today and ready to rock, ready to roll with the NFL content. We're going to be talking a quick recap of NFL Week 1, and then I'm going to give you my predictions for all 16 games of the NFL schedule for Week 2. I'm ready to roll, so I'm going to get right into it. The NFL started off with the thriller in Week 1. The Kansas City Chiefs beat the Baltimore Ravens 27-20. Patrick Mahomes was good. He was exciting. The Baltimore Ravens put up a fight, but ultimately the Kansas City Chiefs win the game by a toe. Isaiah Likely caught the pass in the end zone, but his second toe was out of bounds, and it is no catch for the Baltimore Ravens, as if that were a touchdown, it looks as though they were going for two to win the game. So either Kansas City wins 27-26, or the Baltimore Ravens upset the Chiefs on opening night with the Chiefs ring night and everything, and they could have upset them 28-27, but Isaiah Likely was out of bounds, and the Chiefs win the game, and they hold on in their ceremonial ring night. That brings us to, I'm just going through the games randomly, the Eagles and Packers, the first game in Brazil. First game ever in South America for the NFL. It was a really good game, but ultimately the Eagles win the game 34-29. Another exciting game for the second game of the NFL season. Saquon Barkley in his Eagles debut, 132 yards from scrimmage, 3 touchdowns. The first time he's had 3 touchdowns since his rookie season. The Packers are 0-1, but the worst part about their overseas trip, Jordan Love, their franchise QB, suffered an apparent lower leg injury, and he had to be helped off the field the second to last play of the game. We don't really know the status of Jordan Love. It could be 1 week, it could be 4 weeks, it could be 6 weeks. We don't know. So bad news for the Packers, but the Eagles pick up the win in Brazil in the NFL's first South Africa game. The Dolphins and Jaguars. It was a good game. The Jaguars at one point led 17-7. But the Dolphins come storming back after some Jaguars turnovers. The Dolphins kicker hits a 52-yard field goal, Jason Sanders, as time expired. The Dolphins win 20-17. Tua throws for 336 yards and a touchdown. And the Dolphins also had Tyreek Hill arrested before the game. That whole scenario is still ongoing. We don't know what's going to happen with that, but ultimately Tyreek Hill is still going to be eligible to play, and the Dolphins win the game 20-17. The Buffalo Bills and Arizona Cardinals. Josh Allen throws for 2 touchdowns and runs for 2 touchdowns. The Bills win 34-28. Kyler Murray wasn't great, but he was decent. And also in this game, DJ Dallas returned a fourth quarter kickoff, 96 yards for the NFL's first kick return since the new kick return rules were implemented this offseason. Going to be interesting to see how that pans out for the rest of the season, how many kick returns we get. Steelers and Falcons. Steelers win the game 18-10. Russell Wilson did not play. Justin Fields did play. And the Atlanta Falcons were, well, their offense was beyond bad. Chris Boswell hit 6 field goals, accounting for all 18 of the Pittsburgh Steelers points. 3 of them were beyond 50 yards. Kirk Cousins was just terrible all game long. He looked uncomfortable in the pistol, which he's not accustomed to running. With the offense, the Falcons want to run under Kirk Cousins, and well, he's not accustomed to it, and that showed. The Falcons totaled for 10 points. Bijan Robinson had a ton of catches, but it was not enough for the Atlanta Falcons as they lose to the Steelers 18-10. The Minnesota Vikings beat the Giants 28-6. Daniel Jones throws his customary pick 6, and Giants fans waited after the game until he was out of the locker room, and some Giants fans stood around to boo him. That's how bad it's gotten for the Giants and Daniel Jones. Justin Jefferson scores a touchdown. Sam Darnold has a nice first game with 2 touchdowns in his Minnesota Vikings debut as the Vikings dominate the Giants 28-6 at MetLife Stadium. the Giants are probably looking at a rough season if we're being honest. Daniel Jones is not a franchise QB, but hey, that's the Giants' problem because they paid him $160 million before last season started, and he's got this year plus 2 more years left on that deal. Seattle Seahawks beat the Broncos 26-20. The after Russell Wilson era began in Denver. Bo Nix makes his rookie debut. He was okay, but not great, not nearly enough for the Broncos to win this game. Seattle dominated defensively for the most part, as Bo Nix had several turnovers. And Kenneth Walker was a nice addition as he had a nice game for the Seattle Seahawks. Seahawks win 26-20. And for the Los Angeles Chargers, it was Jim Harbaugh's return to the NFL, the first time he is with the LA Chargers. They beat the Raiders 22-10. J.K. Dobbins returned from an Achilles tear last season, and J.K. Dobbins runs all over the Raiders defense in the second half, rushing for 135 yards and a touchdown. The Chargers dominated in the run game, and it brought them and Jim Harbaugh off to a positive start in, as I said, his Chargers debut. That brings us to the Texans and Colts. The Texans win 29-27. The Colts were a thorn in their side all game as Anthony Richardson played well, but C.J. Stroud bested Anthony Richardson, and the Texans win 29-27. Stephon Diggs, 2 touchdowns in his Texans debut. A lot of people saying Diggs is a bad pickup. He's a diva. Yes, he's a diva. But Stephon Diggs was really good in this one. Not a ton of yardage, but 2 touchdowns. Anthony Richardson was phenomenal in this game. Several touchdowns of his own. But C.J. Stroud was better. He had a 70+% completion percentage, and the Texans scrape out a win against the Colts 29-27. Nico Collins looks like he is the Colts killer, as T.Y. Hilton used to be the Texans killer. We'll find out later in the season how he performs against the Colts in round 2 of the 2-game season series. New Orleans Saints dominate, and I mean dominate, the Carolina Panthers, who look to be the worst team in the NFL. The Carolina Panthers, Bryce Young, looks anything but a number 1 overall pick as the Saints just torched the Panthers 47-10. Derek Carr, I mean, when Derek Carr's going off on you, he's a average quarterback at best. You know it's bad. Derek Carr had 3 touchdowns of his own and looked like one of the best quarterbacks in the league when he's not. But not much more to say about this. I mean, even Chris Olave had 2 total catches in this game. That's how great the Saints dominated. He is the Saints' number 1 receiver. They didn't even need Chris Olave to torch the Carolina Panthers 47-10. It was all Saints in this game. The Chicago Bears beat the Tennessee Titans without an offensive touchdown 24-17. The Bears and Caleb Wilson scored 24 unanswered after the Titans led 17-0 to come away with the win. Caleb Williams was abysmal in this game, but luckily for the special teams and the defense, providing most of the, really all of the scoring for the Chicago Bears, and of course the pick 6 by Will Levis, which is one of the worst pick 6s of all time. Well, the Titans gave the game away to the Bears in a game Tennessee should have easily won, leading the Texans to the only team picking up a win in the AFC South. The Bears come to Houston, Texas, on Sunday Night Football in Week 2, a little preview for you. New England Patriots beat the Cincinnati Bengals 16-10. Unfortunately, I picked the Bengals in a Survivor League, and well, that didn't go well for me. I'm already out after Week 1, as a lot of people are as well. The Bengals had no points at halftime. They scored 10 in the second half, but it's not enough to beat the Patriots in the Gerard Mayo era. He picks up his first victory in his first game in a massive upset, 16-10. The Patriots ran the ball down the Bengals' throats and had just enough offense with Jacoby Brissett leading them to come away with the 16-10 victory. Tampa Bay Buccaneers outlast the Commanders 37-20. Baker Mayfield throws 4 touchdowns, and Jaden Daniels was good in this matchup, having a couple of touchdowns of his own, but it was not nearly enough. He did run for 2 touchdowns, and he's the first quarterback in history to rush for over 80 yards and 2 touchdowns in his first NFL start. But like I said, Baker Mayfield He was 23 of 29 for 257 yards and 4 touchdowns, no picks. He had a bunch of big time throws in this game. And of course, Mike Evans, Houston native, with 2 touchdowns of his own. Tampa Bay wins 37 to 20. The Dallas Cowboys dominate the Cleveland Browns as Dak Prescott, hours before the game, gets his big time 4-year, $240 million contract extension. So after this season, he'll have 4 more years of his contract with the Dallas Cowboys as they dominated 33 to 17. He's the first player ever to average $60 million a year. My gosh, that is crazy. Dak Prescott was okay in this one, but he didn't have to be spectacular. He throws a touchdown to Brandon Cooks, and the Cowboys were up 27-3 early third quarter, and they had a punt return touchdown in this one. Brandon Aubrey kicked a bunch of field goals, and even CeeDee Lamb was just mediocre in this game, but they didn't need him to be because they hardly had to throw the ball the whole second half. Dallas gets a dominant win, and we'll see what they can do in week 2. But the Browns look horrible, and Deshaun Watson, that contract looks worse and worse every single day. That's going to take us to the last 2 games of the week. The Detroit Lions beat the Los Angeles Rams in overtime with the David Montgomery touchdown in a 26-20 victory at Ford Field. The Lions were the home team. The Rams led 17-10 in the fourth quarter, but the Lions led 17-10 in the fourth quarter, but the Rams stormed back. The game was tied after the Lions kick a last-second field goal to force overtime, and then David Montgomery's touchdown ended the game in overtime. The Rams shut down the Lions' biggest 2 offensive weapons, Amon-Ra St. Brown and Sam Laporta, but the Rams' offensive line is injury-prone as it is right now, and they lost Puka Nacua in this game. It was too much to overcome, and well, unfortunately for the Rams, they lose week 1, and they've got a ton of injury problems headed their way. Cooper Kupp had a ton of catches, but it was not enough. The Jets and 49ers had the Monday night game. It was the Jordan Mason show. Yes, Christian McCaffrey, it was announced probably 2 hours, maybe less than 2 hours before the game. He would not play, and rumors are swirling. They had known since Friday Christian McCaffrey would not play. I don't know how much of that is true, but it may or may not be true. Jordan Mason goes for 147 rush yards and a touchdown with the injured Christian McCaffrey on the sideline. The Niners kick a bunch of field goals. Aaron Rodgers plays more than 4 plays in the 2024 season, but it was not nearly enough. Garrett Wilson was okay in this game. Breece Hall fumbled. He was good in this game, but not nearly enough. And the San Francisco 49ers take it 32-19. And as Jake Moody, their kicker, had 26 fantasy points, that is huge for a lot of fantasy gurus like myself. But just like the Dallas Cowboys, the 49ers score a couple touchdowns and kick a ton of field goals to power them to victory. For week 2 goes, we're going to start with the Thursday night game, the Bills and the Dolphins. I'm going to take the Bills in this one. I just don't know what's going to happen with the Dolphins run game. Is Mostert going to play? Is Achane going to play? I think the run game's a little too banged up. I'm going to take the Bills in an upset on the road, a divisional matchup. Josh Allen's going to be too much for what I think is a mediocre Dolphins defense, and I'm going to take the Bills in this one. Josh Allen's too much to overcome. He's a stud, even though he has less offensive weapons than he may have ever had probably since his rookie year. Dalton Kincaid has a bounce-back game. James Cook has a good game. And the Bills take down the Dolphins on the road on Thursday Night Football. We're going to move to the 49ers and Vikings. The 49ers, whether they have Christian McCaffrey or not, I'm going to take the 49ers in this game over the Vikings. It's going to be too much to overcome. 49ers high-powered offense. They showed they can run without Christian McCaffrey. Now, can they win a Super Bowl without him? Probably not. But Sam Darnold is going to get eaten alive at home by the 49ers defense. I think it's going to be probably about a 10-point 49ers victory, but their offense was in sync enough. Brandon Ayuk is going to be better than just 2 catches after signing that $120 million deal. $30 million a year for 2 catches isn't going to cut it. I think they're going to get him more involved, and the 49ers are going to have a big win against the Vikings. I have them winning by at least 10 points. The Seahawks and Patriots are the next matchup for week 2. I got the Seahawks going on the road into Foxborough spoiling Gerard Mayo's home debut as the New England Patriots head coach. Seattle, they've got a good run game with Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet. Geno Smith is going to play just well enough. And the Patriots already pulled off one upset so far this year. They were like, 8-point underdogs roughly. I don't have the exact spread. I'm not a big spread guy, too big of it, but I don't focus too much on it. But nonetheless, Seattle is going to go into Foxborough. I don't see the Patriots having 2 upset wins in a row. I'm going to take Seattle by 3 in a tough contest on the road in Foxborough to come away with the win. Giants and Commanders, possibly one of the worst games of the week. The Giants are not a good club are not a good team, and the Commanders both coming off a loss. They're both 0-1, but I'm going to take the Commanders in this game. They're at home. First game of the Dan Quinn era, getting the victory. The Giants, I just can't trust Daniel Jones. I might honestly pick the Giants to lose every game this year. We'll see what happens, but the Giants aren't good. Jayden Daniels is going to pick up his first career NFL win in this one. I trust Jayden Daniels, even though he's in a second career game, more than I do Daniel Jones. That just seems like an easy pick for me. The Chargers and Panthers are next up on my list. The Panthers are going to be at home. They're 0-1 with Bryce Young so far this year. The Chargers are 1-0. I'm going to take Jim Harbaugh to go into Carolina and win this game and start 2-0 in his Chargers era. It just seems like an easy pick. The Panthers are not going to be favored in many games, if any games this year. And while it just seems too easy to pick the Panthers to lose, they might stumble into maybe 3 wins this year, but I don't predict them to win any more than 3 games this year. I may not predict them to win any game, but I'm sure they'll stumble into a couple and have a few upsets here and there. But the Chargers should easily win this game. They've got too much offensively. Justin Herbert, or it comes down to who do you trust more, Justin Herbert or Bryce Young. Even though Carolina's at home, Jim Harbaugh's going to run the ball all down Carolina's throats all day long. The Chargers pick up the victory. Saints versus Cowboys, potentially one of the better games of the week. The Saints have a good defense, a good enough offense to pull off the upset, but I'm going to take Dak and the Cowboys at home to go 2-0. The Saints played Carolina last week, a little bit of a fluke. Not to say that the Saints didn't earn that victory, but that's not who the Saints are going to be all season long. It's just too easy to pick the Cowboys in this one just because, the Saints may be a good team. They may squeak into the playoffs, but Dallas is superior to the Saints. And I know upsets can happen, but Dallas played so well against a better Cleveland team. I think Cleveland, if they can figure out their quarterback situation, is better than the Saints. And the Cowboys being at home, they usually play a little bit better at home than on the road, at least in my opinion. I'll take the Cowboys to win. CeeDee Lamb has a monster game, even though Marshawn Lattimore may or may not be there. I'm not a big Saints guy, but CeeDee Lamb has a monster game after having a mediocre debut to his big contract extension that he signed. Cowboys win this game at home. That takes us to the Colts and Packers. I'm going to take the Colts for right now, but if Jordan Love somehow plays in this game, I'm going to take Green Bay at home. But if we're talking who the Packers are expected to start in this one, Malik Willis. If anyone saw Malik Willis play in Tennessee for the couple of starts he got and a couple of the times he came in off the bench in a blowout or whatever the situation was, Malik Willis, not a good quarterback. He was atrocious. I have to take the Colts in this one. Unless Jordan Love plays, I will switch to the Packers off air for after this video. But nonetheless, it seems like Jordan Love will not play this week. We don't know down the road after that. But I'll take the Colts. Anthony Richardson looked pretty good. And I think Jonathan Taylor can have some success against a good Packers defense. The Colts will win a tough one on the road. But like I said, I'm taking the Colts with the Jordan Love expected to be less Packers. The Browns and Jaguars, it will be at Jacksonville. I'm going to take the Jaguars in this one. The Browns looked abysmal. I can't trust them right now. They could very well go into Jacksonville and win, but I think Jacksonville is salty after losing a game they should have beat the Miami Dolphins in, but they didn't. Trevor Lawrence will have a better game. Travis Etienne maybe won't fumble a couple times in this one. Maybe he'll look a little better, or can Tank Bigsby steal his job? The Jaguars beat the Browns because, you can't trust the Browns QB play, and I think they do just enough to win a close game in Jacksonville to get their first win of the year, and the Browns would move to 0-2 in this scenario. The Titans and Jets, Aaron Rodgers is a better QB than Will Levis. The Jets are looking for a bounce back after they were embarrassed by the 49ers on the road. The Jets playing another game on the road in Tennessee. I'm going to take Aaron Rodgers in this one. He's better than Will Levis probably is ever going to be. And well, even though he's 40, the Jets are going to find a way to win this one because they got a better defense and I think a better offense than Tennessee. Tony Pollard was impressive last week, but it's not going to be enough. The Jets are going to win this game. And not really an upset, but they're going to win this game on the road and move to 1-1, pushing the Titans to 0-2. The the Buccaneers and Lions will play a rematch of the divisional round. The Lions and Buccaneers played in the playoffs at Ford Field yet again. I'm going to take the Lions in this one. Amon-Ra St. Brown, bounce back game likely. Same with Sam Laporta. I think they're going to do a better job of getting those guys involved. I think Jameson Williams kind of has a breakout year, but there's no way he's going to, unless Amon-Ra St. Brown gets hurt, which I'm not voting for at all. I don't hope he gets hurt or anything, but unless he gets hurt and misses half the season, he's going to end up having a lot more receiving yards than Jameson Williams. I think it was just kind of a game script thing of they really zoned in on him, and Jameson Williams had a couple of big plays in the game. I don't think it had anything to do with what's to come. Jameson Williams is just that kind of guy. He's going to have some big games like that. That's just who he is. He's got groundbreaking speed, and he was able to get past the defense for a couple of big plays. I think he's going to have his best season yet because he really hasn't had a big-time breakout season. But nonetheless, the Lions are going to beat the Buccaneers as they did in the playoffs last year. Up in the game slate, another Sunday game, the Ravens and Raiders. The Raiders just aren't there yet. They're starting Gardner Minshew, or even if they move on to Aiden O'Connell later in the season. Neither one of them is a good quarterback. The Ravens are a much better team. They're looking for blood after they came so close to upsetting the Chiefs on Thursday Night Football last week in the opening game of the year. They came so close, it wasn't enough, but the Ravens are going to get a big bounce back. I have the Ravens winning by at least a touchdown, if not 10 or 14 points against the Raiders. They're a much better team, and the Raiders are just a bad football team, if you ask me. They're better under Antonio Pierce, but they need some more time, and they got to figure out their quarterback room because I guarantee you they're not making the playoffs with Aiden O'Connell or Gardner Minshew. It doesn't matter who's starting at quarterback. I've got the Ravens big time in that game. The Rams and Cardinals in the afternoon slate. I'm going to take the Cardinals at home in this one only because the Rams are so banged up. They don't even know who they're starting in offensive line. If the Cardinals get any sort of pass rush, I know the Rams have Cooper Kupp, but this is kind of an upset for me. I think the Rams probably should be favored. They've got a little bit better of a quarterback because Kyler Murray still has something to prove in my mind, and he's still kind of recovering from that ACL injury, but the Cardinals, with the Rams not really having an offensive line, I think that's going to slow them down enough. And this is one of my upsets of the week. I'm going to take Arizona, Kyler Murray to bounce back with Jonathan Gannon as their coach. Marvin Harrison as, well, his first good game as a pro, or at least a better game. What did he have? One catch for 4 yards, if I'm not mistaken. He was abysmal. The Cardinals were abysmal, and the Cardinals get a nice win against the Los Angeles Rams at home to get their season going at 1-1. The Chiefs and Bengals they're one of the afternoon games. I'm going to take the Chiefs. The Bengals looked abysmal. Ja'Marr Chase, I really don't know what's going on there. He was ill. He might not play. He may play. T. Higgins is questionable, maybe not even play again. I think T. Higgins is already checked out as a Bengal. He's looking for a big contract in the offseason. Honestly, if I'm T. Higgins, I would play a few games and kind of tell the Bengals, hey, I'm out of here. I'm not trying to get hurt and risk my future, but that's T. Higgins and the Bengals' problem. I think they just got too much drama going on. They don't really have a run game. They have Zach Moss and Chase Brown, but nothing that's really going to scare you. Yeah, they're two good football players, but Kansas City's a much better team, and they're at home. They get 2 straight home games to start the year. I have the Chiefs beating the Bengals, and I have a beatdown because Joe Burrow looked abysmal. I know it was the New England Patriots. They're trying to revive what they had. It's not going to happen with 6 Super Bowls with Gerard Mayo, but they're trying to revive. They were a young and hungry team, and the Bengals looked abysmal. I'm taking the Chiefs at home. It seems like an easy pick here because the Bengals were so bad. How can you pick them right now? They were just atrocious. In their first game of the year, they're going to start 0-2. Steelers and Broncos is kind of a coin flip for me, but I'm going to go Pittsburgh in this game. The Pittsburgh Steelers were not great, but they were able to beat the Falcons, who I picked. So maybe the Steelers are a little better than we think. And at the same time, I just don't trust Bo Nix and the Broncos. The Broncos are just not a very good team, and neither are the Steelers, but it's kind of the lesser of the two evils. The Steelers have the better coach in Mike Tomlin. So I think this is going to be a low scoring game, as the Steelers and Broncos will probably be. It's probably going to come down to kind of whichever field goal kicker makes more kicks, something like that. But the Steelers, I predict they'll actually score an offensive touchdown this week, and they'll somehow find a way to maybe win a low scoring 17-13 game against the Broncos. I don't have much hope. I won't be tuned in on this one, but it's probably going to be an ugly game between two mediocre to bad teams, and I have the Steelers coming out on top in this one. Sunday Night Football takes us to Houston, Texas, where I reside. The Texans and Bears. The Bears were atrocious last week, as I mentioned earlier in the video. Caleb Williams is going to be better, but I don't think he's going to be good enough to get his first big road win of his NFL career. And really what should be his first win of his NFL career, but he was playing the Titans, and his defense really bailed him out. Nonetheless, the Texans and C.J. Stroud are going to move to 2-0 in this game. They're at home. NRG Stadium is going to be rocking. The Texans are going to come out. Joe Mixon had a monster game. They're probably going to try to run the ball a ton. And if they can't run, C.J. Stroud is going to not make mistakes again. And the Texans, I think it'll be a hard-fought victory. I've got the Texans by a touchdown. It's going to be a good game, but it's going to be too much for the Bears to overcome, who are going to move to 1-1, as the Texans will improve to 2-0. And the last game of the week, the Falcons and the Eagles. Well, as bad as the Falcons were, I can't trust them. The Eagles are going to be at home, as they did give up a home game to play in Brazil, but their first actual home game of the 2024 / kind of 2025 season. The Eagles are a better team than the Falcons. The Falcons looked really bad in their first game under head coach Raheem Morris. It's not going to be enough to overcome the Eagles. Saquon Barkley, even though the Falcons have much improved, it seems on paper, they've still got a lot to prove. Kirk Cousins has got a lot of things to iron out, and the Eagles are going to beat the Falcons. I have it by at least a touchdown. The Falcons look so bad. You can't trust them right now. So I'm going to take the Eagles. Saquon Barkley looked great. The passing game was good enough. And Kellen Moore seems to be improvement over their last couple of offensive coordinators since the Super Bowl. And they lost Shane Steichen, who was an offensive guru. So I think Kellen Moore's going to be an improvement. Maybe not quite as good as the former offensive coordinator Shane Steichen, but nonetheless, the Eagles are going to move to 2-0. I think it's a big A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith game. The Eagles win the game, and the Falcons go home, and they're 0-2, really rethinking that big contract they gave Kirk Cousins. That's going to be the end of my addition to my first NFL video of the 2024 NFL season. This is the latest edition of Clark Crawford Sports. I apologize once again. I had some things going on, was a little under the weather, but I'm back here on Clark Crawford Sports, back here on YouTube. Can't wait to hear what you guys think about my NFL content coming up. I might get back into the shorts game, might get not, we'll see. But thank you for watching my latest video. Like my video down below, comment, subscribe. We'll figure this thing out. I'll get more content out, and I'll see y'all in the next edition of Clark Crawford Sports, and maybe a baseball video, maybe football, maybe I'll combine them. Y'all let me know what y'all think down below in the comments, and I'll see all of you in the next edition sometime this next week. Thank you all for watching.